so proud that we could partner with this evening. It is but one of many amazing programs that we have been able to bring to our community that are along this line of introducing people who run counter to the narratives that are so publicly shared but don't really represent the reality of life on the ground. And so I want to hand the microphone over now to our own wonderful and dear friend.
I want to thank everyone for joining us this evening and for coming out to hear what is promised to be some very powerful stories. And I would like to thank our Christian allies that are here tonight. Thank you so much for your unwavering support. Tonight we're going to talk about radical Islam, and we're actually going to learn about why we shouldn't use the term radical Islam, but it's not for the reasons that you think. It's time that we all start paying more attention and not being so worried about being PC. I'd like to introduce you in the order that they're seating. First to Rania Dean, an Israeli Druze. She's the founder of The Covenant, an advocacy organization dedicated to educating the West about the Druze community, its challenges, and its historic bond with the Jewish people. She's a Middle East conflict specialist and a leading advocate for ethno-religious minorities. Carine Bassili is a Lebanese Christian and an advocate for peace through her beautiful music. Gazelle Sharmahd is an Iranian Zoroastrian, a German-American freedom advocate of Iranian descent, spokesperson of the Kingdom Assembly of Iran, YouTube podcast host, and daughter of kidnapped German-American hostage Jimmy Sharmahd, who was killed by the Islamic regime in 2024. Okay, we're all used to hearing about, or we reference ourselves, radical Islam. Giselle, what is the difference between radical Islam, jihadism, and Islamization?
All right, we're jumping right in to this topic. First of all, thank you so much. It's such an honor to be here. Such a great turnout, sitting next to like-minded lionesses over here. But we're also sharing not just our love, but a virus going around. So I hope my voice holds. Can everybody hear us? Okay, let's just jump right in, because you asked us to come here and speak about radical Islam. And immediately I said, well, I have a little problem with that term, because if we say radical Islam, we're also saying there's a non-radical Islam, and there's a peaceful Islam, and there's a medium Islam, and what is what. So we're actually talking about faith. And in this world, faith is protected, not just by federal law, but also by human rights, international law. So anytime we're going into faith, we're in shaky waters there. Also, if there's some radical ideology, the thought of it doesn't kill my people in Iran, it doesn't kill any of our friends over here, it is the action of killing. So there comes in jihadism. What is jihadism? Jihadism is the application of violence to get to a certain goal. What is the goal? The power over a community, a certain place, a small community, or land, territory, to oppress people and establish Sharia law. We're talking about the caliphates. So that is jihadism, not defined by me, but by the jihadists. Who are the jihadists? You name it, Hamas, Hezbollah, HTS, the Taliban, ISIS, the Ayatollah regime in Iran. So these are the jihadists that determine what jihadism is. Jihadism by law, because we're breaking law, we're killing people, we're applying violence, is a criminal act. So we can talk about jihadism and not go and be Islamophobic, or not go and be like tapping into people's rights of freedom of expression, freedom of this, freedom of that. No, jihadism has to be stopped. But one doesn't just wake up one day and is in a state of jihadism. So what leads up to jihadism is Islamization. Again, Islamization is not Islam. It's not protected by any of our rights. Islamization is what it takes to go from a normal civilian society to a jihadist occupation. You guys know what it takes. It means disinformation. It means going into schools. It means infiltrating our academia, our media, controlling the narrative, controlling our schools, controlling our next generation. The lies, the propaganda that comes out, billions of dollars are invested into Islamization. So when we're talking here tonight, our biggest threat to civilization, not just in the Middle East, but here as well, is Islamization and jihadism. Those are the things that killed my people in Iran, your people, and also on US soil. So that, I hope, helps us to go forward with our questions.
Very much. Thank you so much for helping us understand the differences. The next question is, many people do not know much about the Druze or Zoroastrian religion. Rania, why don't we start with you? Can you tell us a little bit about the Druze people?
Yes, of course. We have so many things to tell about the Druze people that even I don't know everything, because our religion is secretive. We are monotheistic religion. We follow ethical monotheism, which is the Abrahamic belief. We are located mainly in the Middle East. We are less than 1.5 million in the world. We are very loyal to the country that we live in. Now, the Druze people are very, united, yet every Druze society belongs to the country. So we, along the history, we didn't have any political connection between each other. For example, the Druze in Israel are fully Israelis. Same goes for any Druze in any other country until it hits our moral compass. When it hits our moral compass, yes, we raise our voice and we are good fighters. We are actually warriors and we don't keep calm. Now, I want to just tell you that the Druze religion and belief is we don't accept conversion, so we have no territorial ambitions, no religious ambitions. So we follow the rule, live and let live. Just let us live in peace. In Israel, for example, we finally have this right and this privilege to live in peace and to express finally who we really are, because for thousands of years, Druze people who belong to Jethro, the father-in-law of Moses, have to hide their identity and pretend something that they are not, until a level that even Druze people forgot who they are. Many Druze people, if you ask them now, they tell you, we are Arabs, we are part of Islam, we were established in the 11th century in Egypt by a Muslim caliphate, Hakim bi-Amrillah, while in fact, we call this era in Egypt the exposure era, which means we were exposed then. And why we were exposed? Because we went through more than 18 massacres along the history. So we are ancient to the Levant, and now this is our oral tradition that we pass from generation to generation through secretive and encoded texts to teach our kids who are we, without exposing other Druze vulnerable communities in other parts of the world that are not safe, as Gazelle said, and they are very exposed to execution, just like the people in Sweden, what they are going through now, and maybe we can have time to speak about that. The Druze people, DNA tests, discovered that everything that the Druze people say through their oral history, which means they are not Arabs, they are not Muslims, they were here for thousands of years, they are indigenous to the Levant. All the DNA tests proved what we claim, and that only says something, very, very clear, that executions and oppressions are part of our collective memory, that all the fear that we were hiding, even hiding our identity. You can imagine how hard it is for me to raise my kid here in the USA, when I tell him, there are parts of your identity that you cannot expose. Because if you expose, your community, your people are going to be annihilated. That's the truth. And now we are dealing with it in other parts of the Middle East. But thanks to Israel, that was the only country that stood with us, obviously, because they know what is it to be executed and what is it to be oppressed. And this bond is not only the bond between Jethro and Moses, but it's a bond that goes also because of our, history that we share, our destiny that we share together. So this is, in short.
And I also want to add a fun fact that Rania speaks fluent Hebrew.
Yes.
Gazelle, please tell us about the Zoroastrian religion.
I'm going to try to make it very short because we're jumping over Carine the whole time, and you will find out that my theology is really not that good. Have you guys ever heard about Zoroastrianism? Yay! I see people. Yeah. Okay. Usually people are like, Zoro what? It's said to be the first monotheistic religion and influenced Christianity and Judaism, so we have very much in common. The main thing that everybody knows about is good words, good deeds, and good thoughts. Now, it's important to understand, especially when we're translating that to the Western society, that good does not mean nice. So it's not some Buddhist version of, I'm gonna be nice. Goodness and evil in Zoroastrianism, we believe that exists. And goodness, the biggest goodness, is the Asha, which is truth, universal truth. So Zoroastrians are upholders of the truth. They believe nobody's neutral. Either you're on the side of the truth and you defend the truth and you stand up for it, and that needs courage. Or you're on the side of evil, and evil is corrupt. Evil has destruction. Many of you guys are nodding because that makes so much sense right now when we're in a society that uses so much propaganda, and we will talk about what the jihadists and the Islamists do to our people and reverse of all of that stuff. So Zoroastrians are very clear on that, and the thing is, the more you speak up, and that's very important for people to understand, the more you defend the truth, the more you are out there, evil will come for you, and evil can be very savage. We believe that in the end, because evil can only destroy, it cannot build, truth will be self-sustained, and evil will be breaking under its own corruption. So light will win at the end over darkness.
Amen. Now everyone can say they've met a Zoroastrian and a Druze. Look at that. It was worth coming just for that, right? Now I'd like to ask each of you, let's just start with Rania and go down the table. Please share how Islamization and jihadism has affected you and your families.
Oh, well, first, I'm Israeli, so it affected me in every layer of my identity. Do you want me to start counting? But before that, I want to just tell you, this pin, I have it since October 7th, and now this is the first time that I don't put it. Yes. And this pin is the stark proof of how Islamization and jihadism affected my identity. As Israeli, I survived many wars. Like since day one, I remember my childhood either in a bunker, because I used to live in the north, so I faced so many wars. All rockets, raining into my village. My friend was killed. My neighbor was killed. I always say, living in Israel is like playing Russian roulette. You never know when the next bullet is going to hit you. This is as an Israeli. Every Israeli here knows what I'm talking about. As a Druze, also, I lost so many friends, so many members of my family. Everyone here also that was in Israel and grew up in Israel knows that Druze people serve in the army in a very high percentage. So every Druze person has at least 3 or 4 people that they lost, as Khalalim. This year, as if we didn't have enough in October 7th, I went through October 7th again on July with the Druze people in Syria. Now, the only difference that we had Israel to protect us. They don't have anyone to protect them. The main people that are attacking them are their government. So this affects me in my identity. I'm tired of hiding it. And now I don't know what's going to happen, if these people will get executed, if these people will continue to live under this regime. I don't know to which level can we still survive. We are a declining minority anyway. As an American, I see the universities here. I've been advocating and speaking out since 2010. I toured the campuses. I know the brainwashing that they are using our beautiful liberal values to take away our liberal values. This is how I explain it. I don't know how professors can agree to change the narrative only for a few dollars from Qatar or from Iran or from China. And this is what is happening here. I'm also a board member in ICANN. Beside me founding Covenant, I'm also in the ICANN movement, and it's called Israeli American Civic Action Network. This is exactly what we are doing. We're looking at every anti-Semitic system or administrative level or educational material, and we're trying to fight it, but it's a very big fight. You cannot imagine how deep they are here. They are in every level. As an American, it bothers me because I'm a mom too. And as women also, it bothers me because women are the most vulnerable group. Even the radical Islam, as I say it, or Islamization actions, which normalizes the jihadism. Like the Islamization is the act of normalizing the violent actions of jihadism. The Afghani woman cannot sing in public. Can you imagine that? So this is affecting me on every layer of my identity. That's why I cannot stay quiet.
Well, thank you for not staying quiet.
Yeah, for me, just being born and raised in Lebanon, I was born in a hospital, but then I was actually raised the whole time in a bomb shelter. if you guys know, we had war with Syria, we had war with the Palestinian. We lost people in my family. We've been under so much, like our family been through so much trauma because of it. We have seen the control, like the change when Hezbollah came and took over. I was born in 1985. Go figure my age. It was just that, we've seen so much, like even when they used to go in the street, like they used to ask people for their ID, and if you're Christian, you're either kidnapped by the Syrian, or you are kidnapped by the Palestinian, or whoever this group was coming from. Many Christian leaders who's been assassinated by the Syrian regime, and we have seen, like so many. Even now, after Syria supposedly was free, they went to the jails to see if there's any of these people still alive. There's only one person from like thousands of people who were kidnapped. Anyway, so it was just like there's always just so much happened in Lebanon for years, but we had even incident of Christian, but it was just definitely, it was even like, we'll talk about it later, but yeah.
How did Islamization and jihadism affect my life? She already gave it away, but let me go a little bit before my personal story. I was born in Iran, and it was a few years after what they called the Islamic Revolution. So now you can nod if you know this. There was no revolution inside of Iran. It was an Islamic coup. Okay, a lot of nods. That's part of the propaganda there. So they brought in Arab Islamists. The Ayatollahs are not Iranian, not ethnic Iranian, not by religion, not by faith, not by value, not by anything. They're anti-Iranian, actually. They're more anti-Iranian than they are anti-Jewish and anti-American. They are mortal enemies of our people, and they brought them in from the Islamic schools of Najaf in Iraq to Paris, and from there with an Air France flight to Tehran and said, "This is now yours." Within a year, all hell broke loose. They took over our ministries, they took over our schools, they took our churches, our synagogues, our temples. We had the biggest Jewish community inside of the Middle East, outside of Israel before 1979. They wiped them out. We had Zoroastrians, Christians, they wiped them out. You had to force convert to Islam. Of course, you had to wail up executions in the streets, Sharia law. There's no law anymore. I was 1 year old when my father decided, no, I can't raise a daughter here. So we moved to Germany, quiet life until we came to America about 2 decades ago. And my father had a company, a software company, an engineer, and he created a website. This is 20 years ago, before we had social media, that was so safe that people from inside of Iran could log in and the regime could not see their IP addresses. They could start chatting with each other. They could start organizing. And what he was doing, he was broadcasting from here back to Iran through satellite radio and telling the Iranian people who they are. These Ayatollahs, telling young children in school that you are Muslim, your ancestors are Hassan and Hussein and Muhammad and so and so. And young children had to believe it, because what else can you believe when it's in school, when it's in media and everything? So here comes my father and tells them, you're actually the children of Cyrus the Great. You're coming from this generation, from Zoroaster, about our poetry, about our religion and everything. So there was an awakening inside of Iran from the younger generation of who they actually are. And that these people here, who by the international community are called their government or Iranian regime, is actually not Iranian. This is an occupation. How dangerous is that, to tell the truth? So dangerous that in 2009, the regime sent assassins to Los Angeles to murder my father. Thankfully, that was foiled, but they never stopped, because my father continued and continued. In 2020, they had an international kidnapping plot and were able to take my father through state borders to Iran and held him there for 4.5 years in torture chambers until in 2024, they killed him. It took us 1 year to get his body back, a mutilated body where they cut out his tongue, his heart, and other parts. They're so afraid not just of your breath, but even of what you symbolize when you're dead. Last year in November, the global community came together because even though I'm German and I'm American, our government said nothing. They did not go like Israel and fight to get their hostage back. They were silent. So we got him back last November. We were able to put him to rest in peace. And there we swore with a global community, also from every faith, from every part of the world, people were coming and swearing that we will finish what he started. And that's what we're doing here today, finishing this path. Because I know the last hostage came back from Israel. I know Hamas is weakened, but Hamas is just the right hand of the Islamic regime. It does not stop there, and you guys know that. The Islamic regime is now at a turning point where millions of people are in the streets and there is a revolution. And if we act right, we will make history and we will end them. Like we've ended the Hitler regime, we've ended all of the evil.
Amen.
Thank you for sharing these hard stories. So now I'd like to ask each of you, please share how Islamization led you to stand with Israel. Let's start with Giselle and then work our way.
Oh yeah? Okay.
Or do you need a break from...
Yeah, just because of...
Carine, let's start with you.
I'm feeling better, so I'll take that from her. So yeah, sorry, what's the question again?
Please let us know how Islamization led you to stand with
sorry.
Israel.
Sorry. For me, it's just like, actually the last 5 years, like watching what's happening and first seeing what happened in Syria, with the war that broke 2011, and just like seeing like how, Hezbollah was reacting, like regarding Israel. For me, it was actually not just the Islamization of of the nation. For me, it was something more like, first it came to me through faith, because I'm Christian and I read my Bible. That came first for me. And then that opened my eyes to see, how, like when you're able to, when your eyes can see the truth, you'll be able to, have that discernment between the darkness and light. And for me, I was able to see really, like, where is Israel? Like, Israel from biblically, like, they are not, the evil, they are not the dark, like the dark side, they are not the one who's been always the oppressor. And, just seeing what Hezbollah was doing in our country and seeing Islam, what's been doing in the nation, like in Iraq, and seeing all the war that broke, and ISIS, that we all saw what they did, and just like seeing like how their fruit was always killing, destroying, burning, everything that they did. And, looking back to Israel, like why Israel attacked, you look back into the war of 2006 that happened in Lebanon, always was Hezbollah that the one who started something, which is when they kidnapped one of the, kidnapped the soldiers. And then we're seeing again in October 8th that they actually were the one who started even bombing towards Israel. So it was just always, just seeing all this, it just like was an open eyes to really know the truth and to see first from faith perspective, and second just to see from everything what we all see in these years. That kind of was a big shift for my life, that I was ready to fight for it. I was able to really give the privilege of me, go back to my country. Like, I'm banned from my country because of it, and I have no problem with this, because we have to, as Christians, stand for the truth, and stand against, what's right and wrong, and we don't point to, what's evil. And, we have seen evil, we have seen the fruit of it, and we're just going to keep fighting with Israel and to defend. Obviously, not everything we can all agree. We don't agree on everything, but we agree on really what's, like with this war that took place, that was not right, and that was the October 7th was a horrible thing that happened to Jewish people, and I, we want to make sure that this will not happen again, and speak up. So, yeah.
Giselle?
Do I stand with Israel? That's the question. I don't stand particularly with Israel. Hear me out. Okay. I stand as much with Israel as I stand with Luxembourg or France or something. It's not about the country, right? Like, you have your own country. I stand with the Jewish people who are Zionists. That's what's important to me. I stand with the Iranian people who want to liberate their country. I stand with American people who know what America stands for. So it's about a people who understand truth, who understand... It's not one country, it's not one nationality, it's not one something. Once we understand what Zionism really means, it is a liberation story to us from the Middle East, who know that the Middle East is occupied, not by Israel. It's occupied by the Arab Islamists. 1,400 years ago, a group of rogue Arab Islamists went through the Middle East, country to country, civilization through civilization, kingdom through kingdom, and occupied land and people and erased them. You can see that today. Lebanon, as we said, is occupied by Hezbollah. Syria, occupied by HDS, while the Druze and the Alawites and the Kurds and the Christians are screaming on their own soil. Afghanistan, occupied by the Taliban. Yemen, occupied by the Houthis. Iran, occupied by the Ayatollahs. Africa, occupied by all of the Arab Islamists, while the Copts are screaming there. The Amazigh are there. So you can go from country to country in the Middle East. You see this is all occupied except for one part of land, and that is Israel. It was occupied. And so Zionism is the ultimate anti-occupation story that all of our people are watching, like, oh my God, they did it. They actually went back and they did it. And that is what the Iranian Revolution is about. That is what the uprisings in Syria and Lebanon are about. This is about the opposite of occupation, giving the right back to the people. That's why we really hate it when they say, oh, the Taliban is killing its own people, or Ayatollahs are killing its own people. It's not their own people. They're not their own people, are the other Arab Islamist jihadists out there. They're killing other people, indigenous people. So when we see other indigenous people knowing where they're from, and then coming in as Israel did, helping us, the other occupied, to get our country back. That is, I think, the brotherhood and the sisterhood that brings us together, and brings us together with the West, because the West is going to be the next occupation story. In case people missed it, it is already happening. They understood that you cannot occupy Western countries by forcing them to. You have to go from within and then crumble them. And that is what's happening here. And that's why we're here educating our people in the West about it.
What was the question? Why I'm standing with Israel?
Yes.
Because I'm Israeli.
I'm Israeli.
But really, as a human being, because many Israelis or many Jewish people, unfortunately, don't stand with Israel. So that's not really a good answer, I admit. But you know what? There are two main reasons. The first thing, because for generations, they taught us that we need to feel guilty. And they are teaching the American people to feel guilty. And because I'm lucky and cursed at the same time to know both sides equally. I speak fluent Arabic, I speak fluent Hebrew. I grew up watching Arabic cartoon and then turned into Hebrew cartoon. I know the mentality, I know the food. They have really good food. But the mentality, we need to discuss it further. And that gave me the privilege, maybe, to warn people. Because when I used to live in Israel, seeing the truth and then listening to their media and listening to their propaganda and how they are brainwashing their people, I feel sorry for their people. But you know what? That guilt is no more with me, and I don't want it to be with any of you. You know why? Because we are the abused. It's like a woman abused by her husband, and they are trying to blame her for complaining against him. No, we as minorities need to protect ourselves and tell our story and our narrative with due respect. The second thing, maybe because I know the signals, the early signals of oppression and execution. They never start with gas chambers. The Holocaust never started with the gas chambers. They started in the very little details that everyone looked at and just looked away, right away. And they said, okay, it's a political issue. It's nothing. It's a sectarian clashes. Now in the Druze, within the Druze community, they're killing them for who they are. And they're saying it's a sectarian clashes. So these signals targeting the weak members of every community, sidelining them, firing them from their jobs. This is exactly the pattern. It happened with the Jewish people before the Holocaust. It is happening now with the Druze. It is happening now with the Yazidis, with the Kurdish people, with the Iranian people, the original Iranian people, the Zoros. They are heroes. And because I don't know how to spell this word. And it's happening over and over again, and everyone is missing the signals or translating these signals by a mistake as something that can be fixed, but it's not going to be fixed. As soon as it erupted to violence, This is irreversible. That's why the Druze people now are seeking for self-determination. That's why the Israeli people have the right to protect themselves. And now I'm so happy that my country finally turned from defensive method to proactive method. Now we target the danger before it forms. And this is how I want, and this is how I want Israel to stand for itself. And I'm having her back because it's my country, and I don't want to apologize anymore. Not as Israeli, not as a woman, not as a minority. We have to stand for ourselves. It's an existential threat, and if we don't stand, all of us, all minorities, and Israel on the lead, because Israel is the successful story, as Giselle said, beautifully said it and explained it. We all need to stand together, and this is the only way that we can break this monster, and we can win.
That doesn't make you want to say hallelujah. We are all sitting on pins and needles to see what happens next in Iran. Giselle, how will the world change if the people of Iran take down the Islamic regime? And what is the future of the Middle East?
We've seen how the life of the Jews changed after Israel was free and reestablished. Iran, when it's at its height, the biggest empire of the world, and Zoroastrian back then was the world religion, we believed in what we said, truth and equality. Cyrus the Great was the founder of human rights, so that all comes back with a free Iran. We're at this point where his history can actually change. The people of Iran, for anybody who missed it, I don't think this crowd missed it, for the last 3 weeks they've been on the streets in the millions. We've seen rise after rise after rise, but this time it started with a bazaar. So if people know how revolutions start, usually it's like one class of people and the students, and then comes this and that. The last part that comes is the bazaar. The bazaar is the Iranian Wall Street. So the Wall Street is the last that says, okay, now we're going with the people. So the bazaar was in it, everybody was in it, and millions were in the streets. The regime could not hold them back and had to do a complete internet shutdown so that people could not communicate with each other anymore. It brought in militias from Iraq and from Lebanon, Arabic-speaking militias like themselves, and they started mowing down the people. There is an absolute massacre happening in Iran as we speak because the lights are still not back on. When we see some pictures, it's body bags. When we see the funerals, we see that the people are not crushed. The people don't have time to mourn. The people understand, if you take my brother out, I have to get up. So they're ready for the moment that the world steps in. And we need everybody at our side. This is the moment before D-Day, when gas chambers were going, and the world was just like watching, let's see what he does. It had to take Pearl Harbor for us to wake up and be like, okay, now we're gonna do something. But when we did something, and we took them out. This is the moment right now. The gas chambers are on in Iran. So if we don't do anything right now, history will change. And history will change to the worst because we have two big heads of the jihadist occupation. One is Qatar, one is the Ayatollahs. And if they exist, jihadism will take over this world. And it is already. But if we take one down, imagine what is going to be the fate of the next jihadist in Syria, HDS. What is the fate of Hezbollah? What is the fate of Hamas? What is the fate of the Houthis? One after another, they're going down. We will not only have the IDF now as an army inside the Middle East coming to the rescue of the people, we will have the Iranian army next to them. So this changes the fate of the entire world. We have to pay attention. We have a chance to do that, and it is not just for one country. It is we're liberating the world from the biggest evil that we have.
I agree with everything that Giselle said. We need also to watch out unfortunately, for the next uprising. I believe that it's going to be Turkey. If we look at all the alliances that she's forming now with Pakistan and Saudi Arabia, with all of the control that she's trying to form in Syria, do you know that the Syrian money now has the Seljuk star on it, which is a symbol of the Ottoman Empire. Now, why I'm saying that makes it even more urgent to free the Iranian people, because Iran used to be the best ally for Israel, and Israel is going to need this ally again. And we need to help them as much as we can, because without Iran, it's going to be super hard to win this battle when Pakistan and Saudi Arabia are shifting now and they are forming alliances with Turkey. So we need to always watch out and help the Iranian people, because the Iranian people, on their nature, they are our friends.
I think I can speak on behalf of all of us when I say we are all praying for the people of Iran. As our discussion comes to an end, what advice can each of you leave us with this evening? What can we do to protect our country and our world? What call to action can you leave us with? Carine, why don't we start with you? Because we don't want to just leave being like, oh God, this sucks, right? Like, what do we do? So we need calls to actions.
I think it's very important that we be united. You know, like a house divided cannot stand. Like we have seen the division of my country. We never were able to stand, until today. We're still under, all, the government that was at that time just ruling us over. Hezbollah taken over our country and over every sector. But the division was in our country never were able to be, and to see what, to go back to Lebanon, the Paris of the Middle East that everyone talks about. Until today, we are not the Paris of the Middle East. So I really believe we have to just really put everything on the side and to be able to just come together for humanity, for God's people, to be able to stand for the truth, that when a certain people has been exiled for so long from the land, and you look back to see how many times it was always we see an instant stuff happening with Israel for years and decades, and I believe it just and now when I see even people in the street they are against each other in Israel, the first thing I say, please don't do this, because we need you to be united, because that will be impacting, because Israel is the light to the nations, and whenever they're united, it will impact the nation. Even Lebanon will be impacted by the unity. So I feel it's very, very important that always put on the side your political, and think about it more from a biblical, to be able to see, the Jewish people exist, and to be strong, and to be able to stand firm against, all evil. So.
Rania.
Two things. First thing, as I said, and I want to really repeat it, especially for the young audience here, never neglect the small signals, whether in school or in the university later or in the park. Every signal means something, and you have to right away tell your parents. Because when we neglect the small signals, it's gonna be more. And you have to know something. If you protect yourselves as Jewish people, you are protecting the USA. Because whether Israel or the Druze or the Iranian people, we are just the obstacle. And this is my second advice for you. Always look at things in a bigger lens. I'm a minority. I fear for my people. I fear for Israel. And I'm so nervous. With that said, I want to just make sure that every one of you be active, because sometimes minorities become a collateral damage. Sometimes with all of this big plan, no one notices us. And for us, we don't have this privilege of time to wait and see what's going to happen, because every soul matters. And for example, for my people, the Druze people, we are less than 1.5 million in the world. Every soul for us matters, and we are a declining community anyway. So be their voice, always post, talk, do something, because the media is silenced because of the money of Qatar and Iran. And now it's on us. It's on every one of us to stand out and speak for the voiceless. And please do that as much as you can.
Speaking up is crucial, and standing up for truth, because people are going to try to sell you young kids lies all the time, but if you equip yourself with knowledge, like Rania said, then you'll have the right words to fight back. And just like Gazelle said earlier, you win with truth and you win with light. So definitely educate yourselves as much as you can.
Can you have each of them give us like a Twitter or something that we can see them online?
Absolutely.
Sure.
So can we do that at the end?
And share our posts.
Yes, so we'll just have Gazelle answer the question, and then we can go ahead and do that.
Can I
I think right after that is going to be Q&A, right?
We're gonna have a Q&A.
Yeah.
It's just-
I'll make my call to action very short because they already said everything. My call to action, if I may, is be brave. We need more brave people out here. And it doesn't mean that you're not afraid. Bravery is not the absence of fear. When I see the people in Iran, the woman in the street, looking, at the barrel of a gun of an IRGC terrorist and saying, you can shoot me, you can kill me, but I'm not gonna go down. I want freedom. I don't know what that takes. I don't know what my dad was in him, that he survived 5 years of torture with these savages or any of our hostages that were in the hands of these monsters. To us, in this free country, bravery does not come at that cost. Wherever you see our classrooms are infiltrated by misinformation, speak up, ask questions. It might feel uncomfortable. Get 2 or 3 friends that think like you and back you up so you're not alone. We need bravery over here because it's too easy to look away and it's at a high cost for everyone else. So if you may, just be brave.
We need more brave people like the 3 of you. All these things combined are so true. We're going to open for a Q&A now.
I'm going to remind everyone, a question is 1 sentence and ends with a question mark. It's not a pontification, statements, or paragraphs.
When I went to Israel, I was asked to speak to our congressmen and our representatives, and I think this is something we could ask. It doesn't matter what party you're in. It doesn't. Do you think it would be helpful for us to call our representatives, federal representatives that actually vote on this, and reach out to them to support Iran, freeing Iran, and
Or what would you like us to do?
what would you like us to say? Thank you.
Good job. Good job. Good.
Love that question because you're going right into action. What can we do to free Iran? Exactly. At this point, there's 2 things that we can do over here in America. One is military intervention. The people of Iran are not up against flower power, right? They're machine guns, there's 2 jihadist factions inside of Iran. One is called the IRGC, and the I in IRGC does not stand for Iran. It's Islamic Revolutionary Guard Corps. They're not Iranian, they fight against the Iranians. The second is the Basij. President Trump has said there will be help. Israel is very good at precision strikes. So everybody is waiting for that moment that they're striking. Precisely what should they strike? Now this is the very important point. We don't want a Maduro scenario. Right? Venezuela, they went in, took Maduro out, and now his VP and the same regime is still in place. We don't want that inside of Iran. We don't want somebody to take Khamenei out and then put Khamenei, right? Like the whole regime needs to be gone. So if somebody is fine with military strikes and wants to say, please, President Trump, strike the IRGC and the Basij. If somebody is against military strikes for some reason and wants to leave the people of Iran on their own, fine. You can still ask for something, and that is historically very relevant. President Trump, speak to the Iranian people. We have seen in history that when the leader of the world speaks directly to the people, something shifts. We haven't talked about all of the money cartels and everything that's going on, but once you say, I'm no longer talking to the Ayatollah, I'm talking directly to the people, everything else, all the dominoes fall in place. So you can directly talk to the Iranian people or their representatives. We have built a government in exile. The Crown Prince of Iran is right now not a monarch or anything. He is the representative and transitional leader of Iran who built a coalition last year in Munich. He is here in America. So speaking with the next leadership that takes Iran from here to the transition is the next big step. 3 things. Strike, speak to the people of Iran, speak to their representatives.
Thank you.
Do you think, is there any hope for women in Islamic countries to wake up, shift their rights?
Well, it depends how much we feed them with money and funds, because the money and funds that we are trying to feed these Islamic regimes with, they are the only power that they have, and with that power they oppress the women, they oppress the LGBT people, they oppress all the groups within their community. Now, I don't see that, for example, Afghanistan is over. I don't see without international intervention something's going to happen. But I think that if we stop at least what is happening now in Syria, now the Syrian community, even Muslims, are turning more into Afghanistan. Within a few years, we're gonna see Syria, black women cannot show their face. I was just watching yesterday that women who have hairstylists, they are shutting their places, they're destroying their stores. So it is happening. Now, these are the early signals of Syria turning into another Afghanistan. It's still reversible if we stop the funding of this regime that is trying to show everything that is happening there as out of control. This is their excuse. Oh, we want to do things, but these are ISIS people, it's out of control, and we are trying to control them. That's not true, because 2 days ago, when they just went to Kurdish area, the first thing they did, they freed all ISIS prisoners, and I saw the footages. These were the Syrian regime forces freeing ISIS prisoners. Now, I don't want to interfere with international politics or with big plans, but to answer your question, the women are first to be hit with these oppressive regimes, and they are the last to be saved. Unfortunately, and this is without talking about the enslaving. They are enslaving women. There is a slavery now happening in the Islamic countries, and for them, it's legitimate. The cousin of Shara, in the middle of the Druze massacre, he issued a fatwa saying that enslaving the women of the Druze is legit. And every small fighter went and, yeah, we got the approval from our leaders, now we can enslave them. And in fact, they enslaved so many. These regimes are getting the legitimacy from the power that they get from their leaders, and their leaders are getting the power from the funds that are poured into their accounts.
Amen.
I grew up in Iran, so I totally understand where you guys are coming from. I moved to America when I was 15. One question I've been trying to answer my whole life, because every time I get in conversations and I question something about the Islamic ideologies and stuff, a lot of times the answer is, this is not the real Islam. For 26 years, I've been trying to find out what is real Islam, because I still don't know. Because when I think about all the list of countries that are Islamic, you cannot. And look it on ChatGPT if you don't believe me. Ask ChatGPT this question. Tell me if there's a free Islamic country, and it'll not list it. So I want to know how you would answer that question, because what is real Islam? How do you respond to that when you get that, oh well, this is not real Islam? So.
That is exactly why I don't go into Islam. You're going into theology. Who decides what the religion represents? Who decides how to interpret this? Who decides if what you believe in is radical or not radical? Then we have to go into the other religion. So Islam is now, whatever it was before. Maybe it was a war doctrine, maybe it was an awakening, whatever it was. Today, it's registered as a religion. As a religion, if I'm a Muslim, I can practice Islam. What does that mean as a Muslim? So let's go into the actions, right? I can pray, I can fast, I can wear whatever I want. That's Muslim, okay? That's Muslim action. When I go into I kill, I murder, I bomb, that's no longer Muslim, okay? That's jihadism. So that's why we're differentiating here. In your actions, what are you doing? I don't care what you believe in. You can believe in unicorns or this or that. The moment you come and bomb me or try to put your hijab on me, kill me, hang me, rape me because of your beliefs, you're no longer practicing a belief. You're now engaging in what we call a war doctrine. So that's why we're exactly differentiating this, because we can no longer have them anytime we go and say these people are occupying us, killing us, doing this and that, and then you say, oh, this is Islamophobia. No. Here is jihadism. Here is Islamization. These two we have to criminalize. Jihadism is already criminalized. Now we have to go into ways to criminalize Islamization, because Islamization is, as we said, the setup to go into jihadism. And then you can practice all you want in your heart, in your home, as you like.
So you talk about starting to see jihadism and Islamic regime start in the United States. When you talk about that, could you mention some specific examples? And I've heard things and seen online examples of this in more, northeastern states, and having Mamdani as the new mayor of New York City. And I just wanted to hear you guys' opinions on that, and if that is an example of the jihadism spreading to the United States that you're talking about?
Yes, I can start, but I think everybody has something to say about that. Let's go into history. When the Cold War ended and the Soviet Union went down, the communists' agenda, or the communists that were left, started fusing with the Islamists. Their strategies, the KGB strategies, were you have to infiltrate a country from within and then have it crumble. So you're not attacking from outside, but more like Cold War era strategy. So that's what the fusion of Islamism and the far left happened during that time. Since then, they started investing heavily into Western governments. We know Qatar has invested billions of dollars in our education, not because they want you to have the best education, because they want to control what is being taught. So we have institutions, for example, like MESA, that completely changed the curriculum of political science, of history, of many of those things that start very young, brainwashing you and shifting your point of view. This is just the classroom. They replaced your textbooks, for example. They don't teach that there was an Islamic coup inside of Iran, even though people were being murdered. They taught this was an Islamic revolution. Everybody loved the Ayatollahs. I don't know what's going on over there. This is how we start brainwashing in the classroom very young. On the other side, there is a money cartel going around. If you know anything about business, if two sides make business with each other, there's always a broker in between. The broker is the person that brings people together and gets a percentage out of that deal. So let's say our president, back then, 2015, makes a deal with the Ayatollahs called the JCPOA, otherwise known the nuclear deal. And what that entails is not about nuclear weapons or anything. It freed up assets and sanctions relief in around $100 billion. Where does that money go? It gets invested in everything. But the broker that set this up gets a percentage. What's 10% of $150 billion? Sorry. You 15 billion? I don't know, my math is... Exactly, what can you do with $15 billion? What can you do with $1 billion? You reinvest that money into what? Into media, you buy companies, you buy academia, you buy think tanks, you buy politicians, you buy houses and islands and whatever. So you're starting to buy influence. You start owning public opinion. You start having people teaching in the schools what the Islamists want. Then the media comes and reflects what the Islamists want. Then the politicians come and reflect what the Islamists want because there is money in it. So this is the bigger picture of what is going on. That is why people freak out when we see there's big investment right now from Saudi Arabia, Qatar, $1 trillion going over there. So this is, anytime you want to understand like what is going around you, follow the money. Where is the money being exchanged?
I want to add to that. You need to know that jihadism is not always a war. As Giselle said, sometimes it comes as a financial jihad. Did you know that Syria and Lebanon donated hundreds of thousands of dollars, if not millions of dollars, to our universities while they are starving? Syria and Lebanon don't have a penny, right? Now, where does this money come from? It comes from Iran. For what? For conquering the USA mines.
Last question.
So I think a lot of people, especially teens, are getting a lot of their information from social media nowadays. I think that has sort of led to this view where a lot of people, especially even people I know at school, are seeing Israel and like Zionism as oppressors, and sometimes that's even carrying over to how people see like Jewish people. And what I'm wondering is like, what do I say to people at school who are seeing Israel and Zionism as oppressors in the Middle East? Like, how do I change their view on that?
Great question.
Time to follow us.
Give us your Twitter thing.
So at the end, we have everyone's Twitter and handles and Instagram, everything, and we're going to put it out at the end so that everyone can take a picture. You can follow them. And once you start doing that, your feed will start, your algorithm will change, and it will connect you to other people and people who these wonderful people follow.
I want to just, because this is a very important, I know you guys are tired, but it's very important for me to answer him. You know what? Do you know what is Zionism? I'm not talking about the very common explanation of what Zionism is, but why Zionism was even established. because it was seeking the right of self-determination for the Jewish people to go back to their land, which is called Zion, right? Now, even the Arabs call the Jewish people Sahiyuniyin, it's Zionists. So they refer them to land that they claim it doesn't belong to them. So tell them Zionism is the actual, pure, peaceful way to seek your rights of self-determination. It's not jihad. Zionism is not a bad thing. I consider myself a Zionist, and I'm not Jewish, because I believe in a peaceful way to solve complicated problems, and there is nothing more complicated than returning back to your country after getting involved and sacrificed for a Holocaust. So Zionism is a good thing, and if they think like that, they have lack of knowledge. I want to bring that